I said yes to another man's proposal just to make the man I truly loved jealous. It was supposed to be a harmless little push, a moment of ego, not heartbreak. But instead of fighting for me, he disappeared from my life without a word, leaving a silence I never learned how to fill. What I didn't know was that my game didn't just hurt him, it shattered everything he once believed about love. If you've ever made one wrong choice that changed everything, stay with me, this story is for you. I still remember the weight of that moment, the softness of the velvet box in my hand, the warm Houston dusk settling over us, and the exact second my lips formed a word I wasn't supposed to say. Yes. Not because I loved him. Not because I imagined a future with him. Not because I wanted to marry him. But because I wanted Ethan Stone to finally open his eyes and see me, really see me. Ethan was the man I pretended not to love. The man I called my best friend. The man whose smile ruined me long before I admitted it. We met 3 years earlier in the lobby of the building where we both worked. He held the elevator door for me, even though it was nearly closed, and joked, "You're welcome, I saved your entire day." And annoyingly, he had. That was Ethan. Effortless charm, gentle energy, quietly handsome in a way that made you feel safe just by standing next to him. But Ethan never made a move, never flirted, never gave me anything beyond that maddening, soft familiarity, like he was afraid to cross the line between friendship and something deeper. And it drove me insane. So when Daniel, the sweet, stable, so perfect it hurt coworker, asked me on a date, I said yes. And when he asked me out again, I said yes. And when he started liking me far more than I liked him, I didn't stop him. It felt harmless, maybe even practical. Ethan was never going to choose me, not when he had his eyes on every dream except the one that involved me. But then came that night. Daniel and I were standing outside the Grove in downtown Houston. String lights hung between the trees, music drifted out from the terrace, and people were laughing their way into Friday night. He looked nervous, sweet nervous, boyish nervous, with a small velvet box in his hand. "Marissa," he said, clearing his throat, "I know it's soon, but I feel like I found the person I want to build a life with." I should have stopped him. I should have said, "Daniel, wait, I don't want this." But earlier that day, I'd seen Ethan having lunch with a woman. A beautiful woman. One who touched his arm, laughed with her whole body, leaned in close like she already knew she belonged in the place I'd been waiting for. I'd spent the entire afternoon furious at myself for caring. So when Daniel dropped to one knee, the ache in my chest answered for me. Yes. He slipped the ring onto my finger as the crowd around us clapped. Inside, I felt nothing but a spin of guilt and adrenaline. It was a reckless yes. A jealous yes. A stupid yes I thought I could undo the next day. But I didn't expect what happened next. Because when Ethan heard about my engagement, he didn't ask if it was true. He didn't question my decision. He didn't fight for me, not even once. He simply said, "Congratulations," with a voice too steady to be real. And then he walked away. From my office. From our friendship. From me. I didn't know it then, but that minute, those 60 quiet seconds, would ruin my world for months. And I would spend every day after wondering how one word, one moment, one mistake, could take the man I loved out of my life forever. People think heartbreak comes with noise, crying, screaming, fights, chaos. But mine came in silence. A silence so sharp it felt like glass in my lungs. It happened 2 days after Daniel's proposal. I'd barely adjusted to the ring on my finger. I still hadn't told Daniel the truth, that my yes wasn't real, that my heart wasn't his. I walked into the office and saw Ethan at the espresso machine, the same place we always met every morning. Usually, he would smile, lift his chin and say, "Good morning, trouble." This time, he didn't smile. He didn't even look surprised to see me. He just stood there, perfectly still, like he'd been rehearsing this moment. "Hey," I said, forcing cheer into my voice. "You vanished yesterday. Are you okay?" He didn't look at me. He stared at his coffee cup like it held answers he didn't want to say out loud. "I heard," he said quietly. "Heard what?" I pretended. God, I pretended so hard. His jaw flexed, just once, but enough for me to notice. That you're getting married. My chest tightened. Ethan! Congratulations. His voice was steady, too steady, like a man bracing himself not to break. Then he finally looked at me. His eyes. I still don't have words for them. They weren't angry. They weren't sad. They were empty in a way that scared me. You deserve to be happy, Marissa. I stepped forward. Ethan, it's not what you think. He shook his head. It doesn't matter what I think. But it does, I insisted. We need to talk. No. His voice cracked on that single word. He set his untouched coffee down and stepped back. Whatever we were, whatever we could have been, it doesn't matter now. My heart dropped. Ethan, please. He gave a small, tight smile that hurt more than anything he could have yelled. A smile that didn't reach his eyes. A goodbye smile. I'm really happy for you, he said. And then he walked past me. Not fast. Not dramatic. Just gone. I turned, expecting him to glance back even once. He didn't. He walked out of the break room, down the hallway, and disappeared behind the elevator doors. I didn't know that would be the last time I saw him at work. That he'd requested remote status the next morning. That he'd cut ties with half the company. That he'd avoid me like I was something painful he needed to heal from. I stood alone in that cold break room, staring at the door he'd vanished through. And for the first time, the truth hit me. My little game wasn't a joke. It wasn't harmless. It wasn't just a tease. It was betrayal. Not of Daniel. Not even of myself. But of the one man I never meant to hurt. The one man I was secretly hoping would fight for me. Instead, he couldn't leave fast enough. The strange thing about guilt is that it doesn't show up fully formed. It starts small, like the faint pressure of a storm you can't see yet. For me, it began the moment I walked into Daniel's apartment that evening. He was cooking dinner for us. His little ritual ever since we started dating. Soft jazz playing. Warm lights. A kitchen that smelled like rosemary and garlic. And him, turning to me with a smile that took up his whole face. Hey, fiancé, he said, leaning in to kiss my forehead. You okay? I wasn't, but I'd grown good at pretending I was. Just tired. I lied, setting my bag down. He didn't question me. Daniel never questioned anything. He trusted people too easily, too blindly. And now I was the person he trusted most. That thought landed like a punch. While Daniel stirred the sauce on the stove, I glanced at my hand. The ring glowed under the kitchen light. Something elegant, expensive, chosen with care. And suddenly the image of Ethan's face from that morning flashed through my mind. That hollow, devastated look. The barely there tremor in his voice. Marissa, Daniel said softly, breaking my spiral. You're really quiet. I forced a smile. Just a long day. He nodded, leaning against the counter. I was thinking, maybe this weekend we could tell our families? Make it official. My stomach flipped. Our families, I repeated. Or not yet, he laughed, holding his hands up. Whenever you're ready. I don't want to rush you. Daniel was too good, too patient, too undeserving of the lie I'd built between us. He kept talking, about wedding venues, about colors, about what kind of cake we'd want. He was excited, glowing even. I tried to listen, but every sentence felt like another brick I couldn't carry. Then he said the one thing that shattered the thin layer of control I had left. I just want to give you the life you deserve. Something in my chest twisted painfully, because the life I deserved was not built on deception, not on jealousy, not on using one man to provoke another, not on a yes that wasn't real. I excused myself, whispering that I needed a minute, and locked myself in the bathroom. The moment the door clicked shut, I sagged against it. My hands shook. My thoughts swirled. I pressed my fingers against my temples, trying to breathe through the weight crushing me. How did I get here? How did one impulsive decision become something this massive? How did a stupid attempt to get a reaction from Ethan turn into a promise I could never keep? Daniel knocked on the door gently. Marissa? Everything okay? Yeah, I called out. Just fixing my makeup. But inside, I was falling apart. Because the truth was simple and devastating. I didn't want to be Daniel's fiancée. I didn't want to become his wife. I didn't want our families to meet, or wedding plans, or venues. I wanted Ethan, the man who ran, the man I pushed away, the man I broke. When I finally stepped out, Daniel wrapped his arms around me and whispered, "I'm the luckiest man alive." I hugged him back and felt like the biggest liar in the world. Guilt has a way of sinking into your skin. It shows up even when you try to smile. And the people who love you, they notice first. For me, it happened 3 days after Ethan walked out of my life. I was at work, pretending to focus on a client's corporate gala proposal, when my friend Jenna slid into the chair beside my desk. "You look like someone unplugged your soul," she said bluntly. I blinked. "Excuse me." She pointed at my face. "Dark circles. No lipstick. You haven't smiled since Tuesday. And you've been staring at the same spreadsheet for," she checked her phone, "27 minutes. She was exaggerating. At least, I hope she was. "I'm fine," I muttered. "Uh-huh." She leaned in. "Does this have anything to do with a certain software engineer who suddenly switched to remote work?" My heart lurched. I tried to play dumb. "Who?" She gave me that look, the one only close friends can give. "Marissa. Please." Ethan practically lived in this office. Now he doesn't even come for free donuts. I swallowed hard. She lowered her voice. "Did something happen between you two?" And I wanted to tell her. I wanted to spill everything. The proposal, the jealousy, the stupid yes that wasn't real, the way Ethan's face looked when he congratulated me. But saying it out loud would make it real. Instead, I said he's busy. That's all. Jenna stared at me for a long second. Then she whispered, "You miss him." My throat tightened. I didn't respond. I couldn't. She sighed and stood. "Just don't lose yourself trying to be okay, Marissa." But that's exactly what I was doing. That evening, Daniel picked me up for dinner at a new steakhouse in Midtown. He was glowing, excited, talking about a work promotion he might get, asking if I wanted to look at wedding Pinterest boards over dessert. Meanwhile, I couldn't breathe. Every time he said wedding, something in me flinched. Every time he touched my hand, I felt Ethan's absence like a bruise I kept pressing. Then it happened. I was barely touching my food when Daniel put his fork down and asked, "Are you happy?" The question hit me harder than I expected. "Yes, of course." I lied quickly. He didn't smile. He studied me with gentle confusion. "You don't look happy." I forced a laugh. "I'm tired, Danny." He nodded slowly. "Okay, but if something's wrong, I need you to tell me. We're partners now." Partners. The word felt heavy. Too heavy for the truth sitting in my chest. I looked at him, this man who wanted nothing but to care for me, and shame washed over me again. He deserved someone who loved him back. Not someone who used him as a distraction. Not someone who said yes for the wrong reason. Not someone who was breaking a man who didn't even know he'd been pulled into a game. "Marissa," he asked softly. I snapped out of my spiral. "Sorry. I'm fine. Really." He squeezed my hand. "Okay. I'll trust you." The guilt almost broke me in half. Back at home, in my apartment overlooking downtown Houston, I kicked off my heels and collapsed on the couch. I stared at the ceiling, exhausted from pretending. Pretending for Daniel. Pretending for coworkers. Pretending for myself. And the longer I stayed still, the louder the truth became. I missed Ethan with a desperation I couldn't hide anymore. Every morning he wasn't there. Every message he didn't send. Every joke I didn't hear. Every quiet moment he used to fill. His absence hung in the air like a ghost. He wasn't just gone from the office. He was gone from my life, entirely by my doing. I reached for my phone without thinking. My thumb hovered over his name. Just one message. Just one call. Something. Anything. But then reality hit. He didn't disappear because he didn't care. He disappeared because he cared too much, and I was the one who broke him. Tears blurred my vision. I pressed the phone to my chest, whispering into the empty room. "I didn't mean to lose you. But the thing about losing someone, intentions don't matter. Only the damage does. A week passed, then 2, then 3, and still nothing from Ethan. Not a text, not a call, not even a lazy meme he used to send at midnight. It was like he'd erased himself from every corner of my life. And the worst part, I couldn't even blame him. Every day, I became a version of myself I didn't recognize, quiet, distracted, restless, and constantly looking for a man who didn't want to be found. But it all came crashing down the night I finally broke. It was a Saturday evening, a warm Houston night, the kind where the humidity clings to your skin and every sound feels louder than it should. Daniel wanted to take me out to celebrate his promotion, the one he had been working toward for months. He was happy, proud, excited. I should have been there with him. But I wasn't. We were sitting at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city. The skyline glittered, cars hummed below, music drifted around us. And all I could think about was Ethan. His absence had become a shadow, lingering behind every conversation, every breath, every fake smile I gave. Daniel lifted his glass toward me. To us. I lifted mine mechanically. To us. But he didn't drink. He just stared at me. Marissa, are you sure you want to marry me? The question sliced through the warm air like a blade. Of course But my voice cracked. He set the glass down and leaned forward, eyes soft, worried. You're somewhere else. All the time. I can feel it. I swallowed hard. I'm just stressed. No. He shook his head. This isn't stress. This is distance. I couldn't speak. He exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. I love you, Marissa. And I want a future with you. But I'm not blind. Something changed. You changed. His words stung because they were true. Talk to me, he pleaded. What is going on? My chest tightened. My eyes burned. I opened my mouth to speak, to confess, to apologize, to unravel the entire mess I'd created, but nothing came out. Nothing but a whisper. I don't know how to explain. Then try. His voice was gentle but firm. Because I'm losing you. And I don't even know why. A tear slipped down my cheek, and I wiped it quickly before anyone could notice. Daniel, I care about you. But not the way I care about you, he said quietly. The silence that followed was suffocating. He waited for me to deny it, to argue, to soothe his fears. But I couldn't, and that silence told him everything. He leaned back, expression wounded. Is there someone else? The truth lodged in my throat. There wasn't someone else. There was the someone, the man I tried to provoke, the man I pushed away, the man I lost. No, I whispered finally. There's no one else. But it wasn't the full truth. Daniel felt it. He looked away, jaw tight with pain. You know what hurts the most? I blinked through tears. What? That you won't even let me fight for you. His voice cracked, and I felt something inside me collapse. Daniel. He forced a smile, tight, broken, heartbreaking. You don't have to say anything. I get it. And that's when he looked at my ring, the one he picked with hope, with intention, with love. He reached across the table and touched my hand gently. If you ever decide to walk away from me, please do it because you're choosing yourself, not because you're choosing someone else. His words echoed in my chest. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to be honest without destroying him. So I just sat there, tears slipping silently down my face, while the man who wanted to marry me comforted me, believing he was the problem. But he wasn't. I was. All I wanted in that moment was one thing. Closure from the man who'd vanished without a word. A chance to say the things I never said. A chance to apologize. A chance to understand why he didn't even try to fight for me. A chance to stop loving him, or finally admit it fully. But Ethan remained a ghost. A ghost I created. And ghosts don't return just because you want them to. That night, after Daniel dropped me home, I sat on my balcony and stared at the city lights. Cars moved below like veins. Skyscrapers blinked. Houston breathed around me. And for the first time, I whispered aloud, I think I broke him. And I don't know how to fix it. The wind didn't answer. No message appeared on my phone. No knock echoed at my door. Just silence. Ethan's silence. Silence that had become the punishment I deserved. There's a moment in every mistake where pretending stops working. For me, it happened on a quiet Thursday morning. I was making coffee before work, staring at the steam rising from the mug, when a thought hit me so sharply it made my fingers go numb. If I don't find him now, I may never get the chance again. It had been almost a month. 4 weeks of silence. 30 days of pretending I was okay. I wasn't. Daniel sensed it. Jenna sensed it. Hell, strangers probably sensed it. And maybe that's why I finally snapped. I grabbed my keys, threw on a jacket, and left my apartment with a single mission. Find Ethan. See him. Hear his voice. Apologize. Something. Anything. I didn't even call in sick. I just drove. His apartment building was 20 minutes away. A clean, modern complex in Midtown with tall glass windows and a security door that usually required a key fob. I parked across the street, my heart thudding against my ribs like it was trying to break out. What are you doing, Marissa? What if he hates you? What if he doesn't open the door? What if he moved? The last thought terrified me the most. I crossed the street anyway. When I reached the building, I hesitated in front of the call box. His name was still there, E. Stone, and alone, that was enough to send a wave of relief through me. I pressed the button. The ring echoed inside the building, and then silence. I swallowed and pressed again. Nothing. Once more. Still nothing. My chest tightened. I stood there, hugging myself as a breeze swept through the entrance. Finally, a woman walked out carrying her dog, and I slipped inside before the door closed. Sorry, I said breathlessly. She smiled politely, unaware she had just opened the door to the most nerve-wracking moment of my life. The elevator ride to the 4th floor felt endless. My reflection in the metal door looked anxious, hopeful, and ashamed all at once. When I reached his hallway, my feet slowed. His apartment door, 4B, was at the end, partially shadowed, quiet still. I stood in front of it for a long, trembling second. What if he was inside, staring at the door, praying I'd go away? What if he didn't care anymore? What if I was too late? My knuckles hovered over the door. My heartbeat drowned out every other sound. Then I knocked. Soft at first. Then louder. Ethan, it's me, I whispered. No answer. I pressed my forehead gently against the door, eyes burning. Please. I just want to talk. Still nothing. I backed away, feeling foolish, when I heard footsteps approaching from the end of the hallway. A man rounded the corner carrying a grocery bag, tall, older, kind eyes, and paused when he saw me. You looking for Ethan? He asked. My breath hitched. Yes, is he home? The man shook his head, shifting the bag in his arms. He moved out. The world stopped. My heart dropped into a place I didn't know existed. M moved. I whispered. When? 3 weeks ago. Left pretty quickly, too. Didn't take much with him. The man shrugged. Said he needed a fresh start. A fresh start. A fresh start for me. My knees felt weak. Did he say where he was going? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. No, the neighbor replied. But he seemed hurt. Sad maybe. Just worn out. My throat knotted. He moved because of me. Because I broke him. Because he couldn't stay in a city where I existed. I pressed my hand to my mouth, swallowing a sob I didn't want a stranger to hear. The neighbor's face softened. Are you a friend of his? I nodded shakily. I was. He gave me a sympathetic look. Whatever happened, he cared. I could tell. And somehow that made it worse. I managed a thank you and walked down the hallway, each step heavier than the last. By the time I got back to my car, tears were blurring everything, the street, the sky, my hands on the steering wheel. He wasn't ignoring me. He wasn't punishing me. He was gone, really gone. And the hardest truth settled like a stone in my chest. He left because loving me hurt too damn much. I had pushed him away with a yes I never meant. And now I couldn't undo the damage. He didn't just leave the office. He didn't just leave the friend group. He left the city. And he didn't tell me. Because in his eyes, I didn't belong in his future anymore. I drove home in a silence, so thick it felt like drowning, the kind of silence that follows a final goodbye. Except this goodbye wasn't spoken. It was carved into the empty spaces he left behind. And for the first time, I realized I hadn't just lost Ethan. I had lost the version of myself who believed I deserved him. I stared at the old box sitting in front of me, the one his mother had pressed into my hands before she stepped back and closed the door, leaving me alone on the porch with my shaking breath and my guilt. The shoebox was worn, corners soft, lid covered in tiny pen marks, like someone had absent-mindedly drawn lines and loops when they were thinking. It looked like him. Quiet, simple, understated. My fingers trembled as I lifted the lid. Inside, a stack of letters, all addressed to me, none ever sent. The first one was dated the night I said yes to Mark. I unfolded it slowly. Anna, I shouldn't write this. You'll never read it, and I'll never send it. But tonight, when I saw your hand in his, something inside me cracked so deeply I'm not sure it'll ever heal. I can't compete with him. I can't compete with anyone you choose with your full heart. But you looked at him the way I once prayed you'd look at me. Maybe that was my mistake, loving you quietly, hoping you'd somehow notice. Maybe you said yes, because you were finally ready to move on. Maybe I was foolish to believe I ever had a chance. If you love him, even a little, I'll disappear. I won't bother you again. Just be happy. Please. Jay. My vision blurred. The words melted as my tears fell onto the page. I reached for the second letter. Anna, I know I'm supposed to stop writing these, but you were in my dream last night. You were laughing. The version of you I get to keep now only exists in the past. I wish I had fought harder, but you said yes to someone else, and maybe that was your answer. I'm leaving Houston next week. I can't rebuild my life here with the ghost of you following me everywhere. I hope Mark gives you everything I wanted to. You deserve that. Another letter. Another day. Another piece of the heart I destroyed. By the time I reached the last one, the only one dated after our breakup almost happened, the ink was shaky, as if he had written it in one sitting, emotional and raw. Anna, I heard you're not with him anymore. I'm not writing to ask for another chance, not after everything. But I need you to know something before I go. I never stopped loving you. I just stopped believing I mattered to you. If you had told me the truth back then, if you had just said it wasn't real, that you didn't love him, I would have fought for you with everything I had. But you wanted to see me jealous. And jealousy doesn't build love. It breaks it. I forgive you. I hope one day you forgive yourself too. Goodbye, Anna. I clutched the letter to my chest, sobbing into it until my throat hurt. He hadn't left because he stopped loving me. He left because he believed I didn't love him. My tease, my little plan, my desperate way of wanting him to choose me, it only proved to him that I had already chosen someone else. I destroyed us. Not fate. Not timing. Me. I drove to the lake alone that evening, the lake where he once told me stories about a future he never had the courage to offer me. I sat on the cold wooden dock, the letters beside me, the water dark and still. I whispered into the open air. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Maybe he'd never hear it. Maybe it was too late. Maybe I had to live with this ache forever. But for the first time, I accepted the truth. You don't play games with real love, because sometimes love doesn't come back. And sometimes the apology comes years after the person has already healed and moved on. As the sun dropped behind the horizon, I closed the box gently and pressed a kiss to its lid. His mother had told me, he left these for you the day he moved. He asked me to give them to you only when you were finally ready to understand what you lost. Now I understood, and the truth was heavier than anything I had ever carried. In the end, I learned something the hardest way a woman can. Love is not a game, and the moment you turn it into one, you risk losing the very person you hoped would stay. I thought saying yes to another man would make him fight for me, but all it did was show him a door he believed he was no longer meant to walk through. And that's the part that will stay with me forever, not his absence, but the truth that my own choices pushed him out.